Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Kolb, and I want to welcome you to today's Credit Safe webinar. We're excited to have you with us, and there's some great stuff going to happen here. We've got an amazing topic, some wonderful speakers, a great duo today. So today, you did not come here to hear about all the stuff that we are going to be doing. You came here to talk and to be a part of this. So today we're going to be talking about continuing our credit policy series in regards to automation around your credit policy. So there's a huge topic. There's tons of stuff on this. We've done other webinars on automation and different things like that, but we're going to kind of focus it really on credit policy today. So to do that, we have, like I said, a duo of awesome speakers here. One of them, which is new to our webinar series here, and that's Jason Braidwood. He has led global teams in the commercial and finance sectors over the last 30 years, giving him a comprehensive wealth of knowledge in credit management, consultancy, collections, and risk. He also has over 15 years experience in the business information industry, helping design products, promote trade payment data, and supporting customers with their credit policies and procedures. So a wealth of knowledge and experience there. And then another wealth of experience and knowledge. This one is a little more familiar to you that have been on these webinars before and joined me for these. Richard Gleed has more than 15 years experience in the business information industry. He is a hybrid kind of business and technology executive. He's led global teams through periods of dramatic people, process, and technology change, and has spent the last 10 years focusing on delivering innovative and robust data solutions to both internal and external customers through the use of cutting-edge technologies. So these guys know their stuff. They are ready to talk about this, ready to get into this. And I just want to say, welcome, gents. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Nate. I'm a bit worried that Jason's run off and left me.
I know, we were talking, we always do a green room before all of this. And, he said Jason's not in the US and is a few hours ahead of us and said, he might go grab a little adult beverage there and then meet us back. I'm afraid he didn't come back to us here. So
believe it, guys. Yeah, we can hear you.
We can't see you though. And we do need to see that smiling face.
He says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. There you go, Nathan.
Well, then, we're going to make sure that you can do that. We're going to make sure you can do it.
Start my video. Here we go.
There we go. Look at that. See, we needed that smiling face on here. Look at that. I've only hosted, 100 of these things. So, bound to make a bunch of mistakes here.
I think we'll let you off. I was just more concerned that Jason had left me on my own then, really. So
that's right. That's right.
It's all good.
So I know you guys, we were talking and we always prep for these. I hope you can tell. And we try and put a lot of effort into this to make this really good for you. And you guys really had some questions that would help to kind of inform what's going to happen going forward. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you guys to start running with it. I'm going to be paying attention to the Q&A and I'll just add little things in here and there as needed.
Yep, sounds good. So we had a few questions. The first one was, I'm assuming with this webinar that we're talking to people who actually have a documented credit policy. I think the first question is, do you or do you not? If you do, we'd like to know kind of when did you last review that or make alterations to that? And what level or parts of that policy are already automated? And the second question, or fourth, depends on which way you see it, is what accountancy or ERP software does your company use? And I had to, the use of acronyms in our, day-to-day life is pretty heavy. So yesterday I had to Google ERP to just make sure I knew what the acronym was. And I'm pretty sure the first thing it came up with, erotic role play, is not the correct acronym, and it is actually enterprise resource planning software. If you could answer those questions, we'll go off from there then, really.
I'm gonna now that we're all distracted by your search history, I'm going to repeat those questions. So we're assuming that pretty much everybody in the audience has an actual documented credit policy. But if you tell us yes or no on that one. Also, when was the last time it was updated, or how often do you update it if you're on a regular process there? And then what level of automation do you have? Do you have any automation? Most of it is automated, this one section, something like that. That's kind of all kind of one thing together. And then the other thing is what accounting software, ERP, CRM type of setup are you using to manage this? So hopefully you guys can see that. And we already have some answers coming in. So just go ahead, drop that information in. You can be anonymous. You don't have to tell us your company name. It just gives us an idea of what's going on with the people in the audience so that we can better target this towards you. So there you go. And we've got, like I said, we've got answers coming in. So good for that. And if you guys are ready, we can rock and roll here.
Yep. Let's go for it.
Do it. All right.
Look at those beautiful people.
I know, right? Look at those great looking guys.
Bad time to take a sip of water there. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over with regards to automation. Obviously, it's quite a vast subject, and what we're really going to be covering today when we're talking about automating your credit policy. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of credit application, talk about credit decisions and workflows. Obviously, like I said, there's lots of other parts that we could be discussing, but that's what we're going to do is the why and the how, and Jason's going to cover the credit policy diagram later. With regards to the credit application, obviously, this is what you're issuing to an applicant to gather all the information you need to make the decision on whether you grant them credit. It is important when you're automating it to understand who that's going to. Is it going to the end user to complete? Is it going to be completed by an internal staff member like the salesperson or account manager? And, or is it going to be completed by the credit professional really themselves? And with automation, I've listed a few of the things there that we can benefit from and the tasks we can do. We can obviously pre-populate data of that form. We can also allow data validation when you link your application to a entity such as CreditSafe. We can provide data back, which allows you to validate the data being provided by the third parties. And the next one then, credit decisioning. We've put it into 3 different types of credit decisions here, but those can in themselves have multiple scorecards. And again, credit decisions that I'm talking about automating here is, brand new customers, then credit decisions, which can be done periodically. So your existing customers, you may be looking at reviewing them every quarter, every month, every year. And then obviously we've got triggered reviews. Something happens on that customer or existing credit line, which will cause us to review it. That could be them applying for more credit. It could be something like an external data provider like ourselves has provided updated information, which makes you reassess that credit decision, previous credit decision. And we're also, the other things with regards to automation, I'm not going to go into every one of these here, but it's all about saving you time and money really. But, we can automate things like your debt collection process. If something becomes really behind, we can make sure that gets referred automatically to a collection company. When you process an application for credit and that's successful, we can set up the appropriate reminders, calls, and send out email campaigns to ensure that we are getting collection. We can also obviously automate things like financial reporting or streamline authorization processes. So when somebody applies for credit, if it's over a certain amount of value, that it goes to the relevant person for that approval. And then the last 2 are quite important ones as well, which is updating of third-party information. So in the event, if we're talking from the point of view of CreditSafe was that third party, you would be able to kind of automate the pulling of data from a party like CreditSafe to ensure you have that most up-to-date information in your integration, really. And you can also, at the same time, while pulling that information, use that as a trigger to update your own data. So we can also cover the updating of master data. So these are just some examples of areas you could automate. And I think we're going to then head into the credit policy diagram, which I'm quite glad Jason's covering, because it gives me anxiety just looking at it, to be honest.
I know it's quite a behemoth of a diagram. But before we do, let me just give you the answers that we've got. We've got a bunch of answers in here to these questions. So we've got a bunch of NetSuite users, a bunch of SAP users. We have JDE, Sage 300. And then we have folks that we do actually have a couple that do not have credit policies that are working on them. That are, at least they're not written. We do have some folks that have them kind of built into their ERP. And then we also have various levels of automation. So some have none, no automation at all. And then we have folks that are automating limits, they're automating decisioning at a low level. And then they're also automating collections like you were talking about here. We just had somebody jump in and say they have NAV.
And I think it's worth mentioning.
We're kind of all over the place right now.
It's worth mentioning, obviously, that documented credit policy is what's going to form the logic in everything we're seeing here. So you're hoping that in that policy, you've determined how often or different workflows you do for payment reminders. So you might be saying for high risk customers, we're going to call them every 10 days. For low risk customers, we're only going to call them every 30. And that's all that information hopefully would be in that credit policy, would allowing us that when it comes to automation, that we've got all that logic there, but we just need to convert into code into a program, really.
Right. And we did have one person that was brave enough to tell us when they had last updated their credit policy, which was January of 2020. But that was the only person in there that was willing to give us that information. So that's the best I can provide for you on that one. So, but we will jump to this big diagram that we've been teasing here. And Jason, can you make some sort of sense to this? Because I'm a little, I'm a little lost in this thing. I'll say that.
Okay, firstly, good evening and good afternoon to you guys in the US. Obviously, it's 7:16 p.m. in the UK here. It's good to be with you guys. As Richard was just saying, he obviously thinks this is a very, very difficult diagram, but I've probably got a big audience here, credit professionals that will understand this like a pinch of salt. This is a diagram that I use for our 13 offices globally for Credit Safe. And again, I'll just go through one by one. I think Richard just explained a little bit there on the right-hand side on the letter processing and all that. But yeah, let me just go through it sort of quickly at the top, so you can see there. I mean, it's interesting actually going through this. I was just going to try and skip through it, but Nathan, you just said that there's a couple that haven't got any credit policies in place at the moment. I'll expand a little bit as I go through it clockwise. So as you can see at the top, we have the credit management decisions. So again, as Richard's mentioned, this is the cradle to grave in any sales. I mean, we all know as credit professionals what the idea is, the function of a policy. It's really to define the principles of credit management and clarify the responsibilities and accountabilities of those involved in the sales cycle, which includes sales teams and credit and finance teams. So basically, the credit management decisions at the top is, the first thing we get is a proposal or an application form, an order of confirmation stage. A lot of things happen in policies where these are done and no purchase order numbers are in place. So we have to wait then as the process goes on to try and get these payments when terms are up. We've not got a purchase order because this was agreed at confirmation stage. However, with that credit management decision and what we use obviously at Credit Safe, the automated decision is, we give the risk score, etc., and all that, and we actually look to see if we identify our high risks. Now, again, one thing we do in any policy that I do across all our 13 countries is that we might have the highest risk customer. However, it still might be a good customer if we pay, and then we need to have a look at whether we do go down the prepayment process. So again, if we don't think that the report or the automated decision that's been given to us, we don't want to really decline it as straight away. We can have a look and then try and come to some kind of decision, whether we can get a prepayment up front or whatever and see how they pay, and if they pay well within 6 months, we then can, reassess the evaluation, which I'll come on to later. So if I just go down to the, that's the account setup process. If I just go onto the right-hand side, it all comes now. We've set the account up, we've got the policy, it's in place. We have sort of like the commercial awareness now, so the cash collections. So again, do we apply the correct credit limit? Do we do we adhere to what credit safe say? You know, they've got the recommended credit limit, but do we adhere to that? Do they want more? So again, you need to make sure that we put the correct credit limits. And then, as Rich has just elaborated on, you know, the automation on the core collection processes. So again, we do have letters that are sent out: reminder 1s, reminder 2s, reminder 3s, suspension letter, LBAs, etc. Sorry, guys. These guys will know what I'm on about. That the audience, the letter.
That's okay. I'm just here to, you know.
I'm just going to Google that one now, and hopefully nothing inappropriate will come up this time. Really.
Please don't, Richard. Yeah. So again, we use an automated process with a third party again, where we use this. So again, if the debt's not paid, it automates the letter. It generates a letter sent out to the customer. So. And again, in any life cycle of the customer, if this customer does not pay after 5 letters, you know, you're exhausting nearly every avenue. What do you actually do to cease the service? Do we suspend the service? If there's a physical goods that have been sold, do you stop supplies with this customer? And then if you still can't get paid within your policy, what legal action do you take? Do you go down a debt collection agency route? Do you go to a solicitor's? Again, with the global offices that we've got, you know, we're in Europe. Luckily, the US do like to pay their bills, whereas we've got an Italian office. Italians are very renowned for not paying their bills, so we have to make the right decision on how we on what route we go down to on the legal access. And then the basic one we don't want to, when I mentioned cradle and grave, the grave one is the account closure. You know, if you follow all of these processes that are automated, you come to the end. If you haven't got paid, it's going to come to an account closure. So it's where we have to close the customer. So then if I just sort of go on to the communication side, so you've got a dispute management process. So again, now, who does this? Who does the disputes? Is it the credit controller? Is it the credit team? Does it go back to the sales team? So again, if there's an automated process, you know, as soon as somebody queries an invoice, is there something set up that's automated? Which team does that go to? Is there an SLA in place, a service level agreement, to get that query resolved within 5 working days, you know, 10 working days, whatever you do? Again, that goes inside the policy of what you're setting. And again, we just want to make sure, again, within the credit teams, that you want to get that query resolved as quick as possible, because again, we want to get back into the cash flow so that we can get it paid and collected. And again, that comes in with a good customer service, etc. And that, and again, whoever's dealing with it, make sure that we give that customer service. And if I just sort of go towards 9 o'clock, as we're looking on that on the clock there, you know, you've got your monitoring and reporting performance. So again, automation. We've got around about live at the moment. I again, like I said, I'm in the evening here, but I've always done a check before I log off. We've got around 41,000 live customers across the globe at the moment. I monitor all 41,000. Saying that, I don't monitor every single one, because I have to set a bespoke thing. Because again, if someone's going to drop from a credit rating from 99 to 98, I don't really want to know that. But again, I've got an automated process in place. If something tells me it's going to drop from 99 to 15, I want to know about that. You know, if it's a US one, when I wake up tomorrow morning, I want to know straight away, so I can get onto our US credit team and let's get that money in, you know. So again, you've got all of these reporting stuff that you can do, and that's what we're here for. You know, obviously, again, in credit control, and any credit professional, you want to collect the money in the quickest time possible to improve your KPIs. You know, your day sales outstanding, your DBT reports, etc. Whatever you report on, your 90-day debt, your bad debt, so that we get all of this in place. So the policy's there, set in place. It's all there, set in stone. And again, you guys have obviously done webinars before on this. You know, in any credit professional, you know, the credit policy is our Bible. It's simple as, you know, it's nothing set in stone, but it's always there to hand on things. So again, if you need to have a chat with any sales team or any finance team, it's there. So this diagram here, Rich and Nate, is that I try and get these across to our sales team so that they can quite understand. And sometimes I have to go through a little by little, like you said, but I'm sure that questions that the audience want to ask, I'm more than happy to help out.
Certainly made it a little bit less scary, that's for sure.
That's
Jason.
right. And I will say, just to add on there, Jason, we do have a bunch of resources that are available to folks, complimentary on our website and everything. The links for those will be included in that landing page I was talking about at the beginning.
Brilliant.
For not only the other webinars that we've been referencing, but the credit policy landing page, which will take you from I don't have a credit policy all the way up through, more advanced, how do I do segmentation and those type of things, as well as we have a whole series of blogs based on credit collection letters. Already sampled. We have sample documents of everything from a credit application, all the way through to a full credit policy and all that type of stuff that you can use and make your own. But we did have a comment here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Jason, where somebody's saying what seems to be missing is high-level segmentation, which can avoid false positives and greatly increase accuracy. So do you want to speak to that, see what you would say on that one?
So again, if that's correct, the question is, so again, you're looking at your risk profiling your customers. So again, we're looking at the high risk profile of customers. Again, it's a very, very good question, actually, because what we're going through with the global pandemic is quite hard as well at the moment when it comes to cash flow. So when you're looking at your high risk customers, which ones are really high risk at the moment? And you go down the industry route, you go down the sector route to find out which ones are the high risk. So again, it is a very, very good question. However, we do it again. I don't know. Again, you guys are using it again in the US, but we do have a COVID risk indicator. Where we're sort of looking at into industry sector, and even our own debts that we're collecting. We do use that very much to try and segment the high risk customer. I don't know if that answers it, but
yeah, if folks, if the answer isn't fully to your satisfaction, feel free to ask again or rephrase the question. But we're gonna kind of roll on here and keep going. But like I said, we'll have all that information in the follow-up that we send to you for any of you that are like, I was furiously writing and I'm trying to keep up and don't change the slide yet and all that. Don't worry, you'll be okay, and we'll have all that. Yeah. We have all those resources available for you.
And I do apologise, Nathan, because I'm a very fast London speaker. So yeah, I'm from London, so I do apologise.
That's okay. I'm a Philly boy myself, so I like to talk fast anyway. And Philly, New York, all that, we do the same. So it's the same there. I have to slow myself down here. But obviously we're doing this. We have you've got that cycle, you've got that flow chart, you've got this idea of what we should be doing. So how can we make it easier? Why should we make it easier?
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads us into, why do we automate? And, I put in some of the problems that, every credit control department faces. Why are we getting slow payments? But how does automation help that? Well, automation could help slow payments by identifying companies which are, riskier ones so that you can put them through a different workflow, which allows you to collect earlier. How do we kind of, have issues with low collection rates, as in when I'm talking collection, I need to make sure I'm talking clearly about debt collection here. Well, that referring to a debt collector, we all know every debt collector you speak to, the sooner they get that debt, the younger it is, the more likely they are to collect that. By having that whole kind of process automated ensures that it is referred to them in a timely basis so that they can improve that collection rate. Some of the biggest thing with, I see here is why we would automate is really, to reduce human error. We are all human, especially when you have extremely repetitive tasks, mistakes can be made, and those mistakes can be avoided when you automate, obviously. But, really it's kind of looking at why do we do this is kind of to reduce time and cost of your approval process, to improve your customer journey experience. Obviously, the shorter that time takes for approval and the smoother that is, the more likely you're going to kind of convert your opportunities available. And really, I guess then you've got, how do you optimize your risk by approving only the most suitable customers? Well, if you've got an automation in place, you're able to kind of review your past decisions and things, and then use that to make adjustments to your credit policy to ensure that it is relevant. This is where we start talking about how often are you changing this credit policy. When you have something automated in place, it's more a product of that automation, means you'll have structured data. And once it's structured, it's going to allow you to analyze that and learn from your current run rates and learn from, your historic information. But really, that simply why do we do it? It's to save time and money.
Absolutely.
It's obviously important that we understand why we're automating so that we can explain to others, to move on to really, I think this segues into the next step, I guess, then really, Nathan. Yeah, I put a list out here. I don't know if it's a checklist of sorts, but really these are the things you want to be discussing before you embark on the process of automation, really. And they're not all needed, but it's worth kind of looking at these things. It certainly will make your process smoother if you've got an understanding of this. Business buying, budget, project manager, and launch date. They all come into, if you're running this as a project and you're lucky enough to have a project manager, they will start talking to you about the triangle of project management, scope, cost, and time. You can't have all of those fixed. So if you have a fixed budget in place and a fixed launch date in place, then your scope of your project is going to vary, really. If you're really not worried about the money and the launch date, then you can improve your scope. But that's for you to kind of get that project set up and understand what you're looking to achieve. The defined goals is in there. It's very important that you have those in place so that where you're looking to get and track that project along the way to ensure that you're still delivering that.
And
again, sorry, carry on, Nathan.
No, I think it's important to point out that, while we're saying, the more that you can automate and the more that your policy is that logic for it, the more efficient you can be and the more things, but we're not saying you have to do that all at once. It doesn't have to be everything has to be done at every moment, or else you're messing up.
I think that's
step by step.
Yeah, I think that's important in your scope. So once you go through that, is to kind of almost break it down into smaller steps and see, prioritize what is important to you, and then make sure that your goals are ranked effectively, or your milestones, or your features, depends what you want to call them. But as long as you're kind of saying, well, these are the things that we must have completed, and these are the nice to haves, etc. Really.
Right.
Part obviously of that kind of project setup will be securing internal resource, and a vital part here is understanding what technology you're utilizing currently, so that we can, or you can find the best solution that works for you. Obviously, we talked about documented processes. I would say that the credit policy is one of those documents that is really useful to have. It's also important to understand your future plans. If we're designing a solution now, which is fit for purpose now, but you expect your company's business to change dramatically in the next year and be doing 10 times the amount of checks, we need to make sure that that solution that we're building is suitable for you, in the long term, future-proofing that, really. I did just mention the volume of decisions there. It is important to understand, certainly from my point of view, I would, when I'm working on integrations or, automation solutions with people, it's really important to understand, am I talking about 100 checks a week? Am I talking about 1,000 checks a day? Am I, are we talking millions, really? So it helps me scale that solution to find something which fits them, really. And that's where I would be in the third parties. It's about getting your third parties linked up. So CreditSafe would be a third party to this. Also, if you are using external developers, making sure that those developers are, we're all aware of each other and we're all communicating to reach the common goal, really. And I guess the last one I have here is access to internal data. As we all know, CreditSafe already produces a rating and limits. We provide that data to you, but to make your credit decision powerful, we need to get your internal data and combine that with our own to give you those automated credit decisions. So it is important that you have access to the internal data needed to make those decisions. And you can, we can work out a way of either we ship the data to you and you make the decision and we can help you with that, or we get access to that data that can be provided to us so that we can then provide the decisions back to you, really. Okay. So then I'm going to talk about what kind of some types of automated solutions, and some of these, I would say are kind of barely automation, but it's probably better if you have nothing than to understand the options available to you. So first one would be desktop products, I'm calling them. This is really, you have a credit policy, you don't really know where to start with regards to what systems to use, but you could quite easily code that into Excel so that your credit team can input a few parameters into there, and that could basically spit out a decision, really, or produce a decision. Obviously, minimal investment here. You can also use things like Outlook plugins and stuff, but really, that's going to be not a very scalable solution. But it's better than nothing, I think, is the thing really to say here. So I would say, that would be, it's better than doing things on paper and putting it in a filing cabinet, but really barely. So I would almost say that would be kind of your first step. But it can help you demonstrate the benefit of automation. If you're showing somebody who's doing something manually and you kind of produce a spreadsheet which reduces an hour task to a 5-minute task, that really is going to show that, there is time to be saved there, really.
Sure.
The next one is external website, put it down there. Now I'll talk about this from a point of view of credit safe. We've already talked about, automating a credit decision. Credit Safe has a product called Check and Decide. Pretty much that would be you providing your credit policy to us. We would understand how many scorecards and how you segment your customers, set up the relevant scorecards, create a form which would allow you to pass your data to us. So the parameters from your own company could be input. You would log into our website, you input that data, it's combined with Credit Safe's data, it gives you the decision within our web product. The advantages of this is, again, quick setup. You're not really having to do a lot of internal changes. The drawbacks of this is really, you've got decentralized data. That decisioning data is having to be re-input into your systems. Or you're going to have to be exporting the data from our system and then importing it into your system. Again, I did just see a relevant question there, Nathan. So
I was just going to break in, so you go right ahead.
No, it's good. So how is it different from looking up a customer yourself on the website? Well, with regards to just looking up a customer on the website, you only have credit safe data. This would basically allow you to provide us with what your scorecard is. So let's just say, for example, you're going to also passing 2 parameters, which is the value of the contract, the amount of credit required, or, could be one and the same thing. Past experience with this customer, how well have they been paying you? And, we would then combine that data with credit safe data to come to a conclusion which may be different to Credit Safe's off-the-shelf credit rating and limit. So, and it could use lots of different parameters that we don't use in our score. This is completely, this would be part of your credit policy, where hopefully it would contain a custom scorecard. But that is, taking a credit policy and applying those rules to be done at the click of a button, really, but it would be doing it through our website. Hopefully that will answer that one. Yep.
There's another one kind of right around this, Richard, if you want to look at that. And it's, they're doing reviews every month,
Yep.
and they're searching each customer, pulling each report and all of that. Is there an easier way to do this? I mean, the answer is yes, but explain that a little bit.
I was going to say did you just pay somebody to ask that one, really?
Hey, the secrets of the host stay the secrets of the host.
So to be honest,
I'd be quite happy with your 60 guys, 40,000.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that would probably be, it can be covered in multiple ways, but there's an easy way to do that, as you say, the next one is data exchange. What we can do is, we can provide a extract of, you could be monitoring those companies. We can then extract any data you require for those companies to make your decision. We can even run the decisions for you and extract that and send the decisions. Data exchange is us basically sending us a list of customers, us matching that to our system, appending data or making the decision, and then sending the results back to you. So you don't have to do individual ones. It definitely is possible. As you said, you're looking to do that monthly. The downside of that is, again, that it is monthly. You're not doing it real time. The day that data has been delivered, there could be a change the next day. You won't get that till the following month. So the frequency of those data updates is as frequent as possible is preferred, really. Yep.
I just want to clarify too, or have you clarify, both of you, that when we say we're returning a decision to you, it's not based on our parameters. It is based on whatever parameters you're setting up through your credit policy. We're just setting it up for you and then sending back whatever that decision would be.
Yeah, it's an unbiased view. That's what it is, isn't it?
Right.
It's an unbiased decision, at the end of the day, within the parameters of the customer's credit policy.
Absolutely. And then there's a great question about privacy concerns in here, about privacy issues between the company and their customers. That they say, we have it in our credit application that we keep this private. We keep all this information private. So how does that work with all of this?
Yeah, well, this data is not being shared with anybody. It's stored in your own area. So, this data is still private. You may need a slight amendment to your terms and conditions, which it's certainly not being shared with other creditors, unless you wanted it to be. Obviously, there is a way of reporting trade to us, and we do then share that with other people once it's aggregated. But just providing this data to us doesn't necessarily mean it's being shared. But you would probably need to put a note in there about it's shared with a processor or something like that, But again, probably best to speak to the person who's creating your terms to get the legal side of that done. But it's quite... we wouldn't be sharing, just because you're sharing that data with credit safe for your own decision does not mean that it's being shared with anybody else.
Absolutely, yeah.
And some of the other solutions will kind of handle that a little differently and a little bit easier as well.
Yeah, and the other thing, the data exchange that we were talking about, the other reason why we might be taking this approach for an automated solution is you could be dealing with like a legacy platform here. It could be something, or just an extremely complex platform. Doesn't need to be legacy, but it could mean that integrating into it is particularly difficult. They need to do all the work in-house. All they want is the data. So we will arrange for that data to be exchanged via SFTP, whatever is the appropriate method. And I apologize for some of the jargon there. Basically sending a data file back and forth between us. And it can also be due to volumes. Like I mentioned earlier, if we're doing one check a day, I'm probably not going to be recommending doing a file exchange. But if we're doing 10 million, exchanging 10 million companies' data, I probably would be recommending to do a data file exchange, and you housing all that data in-house then, really. Then I guess it brings me on to turnkey integrations or solutions. These are things like Salesforce and other applications that we have built integrations ready to be installed off their marketplaces. They offer certain features like a company search, a company report, monitoring, decisioning within it. These are already built, ready for you to go and customize. The downside of these is we don't have turnkey integrations for every single platform. And also these features are set for off-the-shelf use. They are customizable to a point, but you're not going to have that full customization available to you. There are limitations within these applications on how you can get it to look and feel, etc. But those are using real-time data. So it would be connected to CreditSafe's API or database. When you search for a company, it's going to our database to pull that information out. You're getting the most up-to-date information. And you're also able to work out, and get notifications upon changes and things like that.
And we do have that for quite a few of the folks that were in here that were dropping in their systems.
Yep.
That turnkey, and we'll make sure that on those links that it will link you to the list of what we have available at this moment. And we're always trying to update our products and do more for those. So
yeah, we've got a new Salesforce integration coming out soon. But we have got integrations for the major platforms.
Yes.
It's really assessing, going back to the scope of what do you want to do. Do those integrations work for you? Like say, we have integrations for SAP, but SAP typically is one of the ones which is typically done through data exchange because it's such a complex system. It's not, and that's where I was talking about, it's not a legacy system at all in any way or form, SAP, but it is, it's difficult to integrate with off the shelf because people's SAPs are so customized to their business. Mm-hmm. We typically deal with that through data exchange, but we do have turnkey integrations for that as well. Sure. And then the last one I'm talking about is kind of a custom API integration. This can cover really any platform as long as you have the ability to change it. Really you can within your platform, and a lot of them these days you can. You could connect to our API. The beauty of this is, you're in full control of how you want it to look and feel. All of our functionality of our websites and our products are available via our API. So, you're able to utilize things like company search. Once you've located the company, we can then build your, decision process into our check and decide, where you provide that data to those parameters, and then we provide back the score, which you can then store. You can add those companies to monitoring and ensure that those companies then, when they do change, you put them back through scoring or choose not to, dependent on your requirements, really. So yeah, those are the types of automations. And I think it's important to say, like, every company's situation is different. What technical solution you have, the solution will vary. And it's really just, once you've got things like the credit policy in place, how you want to segment your customers, what workflows you want to automate, that's having that information to hand will allow us to present the best solution to you, really. Obviously, it looks, again, go back to how much, what is the budget, how much time do we have, and what are we looking to do? And really then picking the most appropriate solution, for that. A lot of companies will probably go for the custom part, but they will then utilize maybe the external websites and things until that's fully in place, really. So we will build their scorecards into their system. They'll use them via our website until their full integration is complete, really. Or we will be doing a data exchange until their integration is complete.
Gotcha. You're so right, Rich, because again, I can remember going back to doing, I don't know what the age of our audience is, but I remember doing my first credit policy probably about 26, 27 years ago. And it's just evolved so much, literally a bit of page, it used to be about 100 pages long when I first done it, the policy, but then with all the automation, everything that's, evolved, it's now, my credit policies is a 6-pager. So it's brilliant. So you're totally right.
It can really save that, that time, make that efficiency so much better. When you actually do it, you put the time into it, and then like you said, it's the logic that runs these automations that makes it work for you and for your company and how you want to do things. So we've got some other questions here, folks. You can keep asking questions. We don't have a ton of time, so if you do have a question, you want to get it in now. But we've had a couple of questions here about time. What are we looking at time process here? We want to save time. We want to be more efficient, but to get this going, if somebody doesn't have automation, what are they looking at? How long and
So
involved processes?
again, it depends on the scope, but I can give some examples. What we would call check and decide, which is you provide us with a logic for a scorecard. We code that into our website and build you a web platform. We're typically looking at around a 2-week time scale for something like that, for a reasonably simple scorecard. Obviously, the more complex that scorecard gets, if that scorecard is drawing in data from not just credit safe, not just the customer, but multiple other sources, that's going to take a bit more time, but that's feasible. Data exchanges, these are once the work is defined, which is normally the part which takes a little bit of time. The delivery time, we're talking, kind of a 5-day SLA really to kind of set up a simple, we will set up an SFTP site. We will, the data, which will be the input data, will be delivered to that. It will be matched to our database, appended with data and returned to them. That can be typically done within, kind of a 5-day turnaround period, really. The off-the-shelf solutions, if you're running something like Salesforce, once we've determined how many checks you need to do and we've got your account set up and everything, I've seen people get that decisioning part set up and the company search and reporting in days. It's as soon as we've activated it. So these are the timescales. Obviously, things change dependent on, if you were going for a SAP platform, that's one of the more complex ones. So, that's going to be dependent on what functionality we're trying to do. And it really also, it does depend a lot of the time on what resource you have in-house, and what dependency you have on that resource. As in, if you have your resource ready to go, I've had people connect directly to our API the same day that we've provided the access to that, and they're pulling data into their system the same day. So it really does depend on your technology platform and the things that I've mentioned. But going through that checklist and getting as much of that information will allow us to kind of, what I would say is approach somebody at Credit Safe to get that information. That's typically it's, you're going to be dealing with somebody from my team who will be, have the initial meeting to scope out potential solutions and timescales with them. And really the appetite towards timescales or, is really going to be what shapes us in what direction we go, really.
All right. So here, another question. Are there ways to do checks on the automated decisions just to make sure they're doing what I want them to do? So can we audit the automation if we're scared of Skynet here taking over?
Yes, there's a full audit trail, and every time we can either periodically or typically, you're exactly right. When we make a change to the automated decision process, we have set cases that we run through where we have expected results. Yes, so that is definitely possible and is part of our, I guess, what in technical talk is part of our regression testing we would do. Typically, that's going to be doing, every time we make a change to that policy or scorecard, we would run it through to ensure that we are getting the decisions we would expect.
Absolutely. And question here, how difficult is it to segment these different decisions based on whatever the customer may want? Like basically, how hard is this to customize for different things that they want to do with it?
I think that just depends. Well, the fact that people are talking about segmentation is encouraging, really. A lot of the time, most people don't really know how they want to segment it, and that becomes the biggest problem. If you know how you want to segment your customers, certainly by industry, once you've matched your database to ours, which is our core competency, we're able to provide an industry code. So then it's all about defining those companies and saying, well, what do you want to do for these industry codes? What do you want to do for these? What do you want to do for this size of company? What do you want to do for companies in these locations in different countries, for example? it really is. If you've defined your segments, that's an encouraging first step. And it's really, that's the hardest step is defining those really.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few other questions here. A couple of them are around the idea of, where can I get help? Where can I, can somebody help me with this? Can help me those type of things. I just want to remind everybody, we're first and foremost, we're doing a whole series on credit policy, 4 webinars. This is the 3rd of 4. So there's more to come on this. There was more previously. You can access all of these at creditsafe.com/webinars anytime. It's all the recordings are there, and all the upcoming webinars are there. We have a credit policy guide landing page that gives step-by-step on how to create the basics of a credit policy, along with some basic offerings to you of here's a sample credit application, here's a sample collection letter, so on and so forth. And then if you need more help, we have people like Jason that know what they're doing and don't have a problem walking you through and working with you and helping you to create these, or reviewing your current credit policy if it's outdated, or you just need another set of eyes on it. We really are here to help you with all that. And again, all this is recorded and available to you. It's there. So all you have to do is reach out. You'll be getting a follow-up email from me. It will come from my email address, and you can always, and a lot of people do, respond to that and ask me questions, and I will probably not have the answer to it in any way, shape, or form, but I will get you to the person that does. I promise you that. So we'll make sure that you get connected with everybody.
And I can actually see, like looking at the participants or the attendees, I can see some people who I know and I've spoken to in the past. So it's really just reaching out to your account manager, arranging, then somebody from my team and, like say, or Jason, we would get on a call and then look at the next steps that need to be taken really.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really are here to help you guys.
Yeah, Nathan, obviously, if anybody needs any, because obviously somebody said they don't have a credit policy already at the moment. If anybody needs any help at all from the UK, I'm more than happy to help out, honestly.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And if you go to the landing page for this series, all of they should be, at least all the speakers are linked to their LinkedIn. So, you'll have that if they have a LinkedIn profile, and you can connect with them there and message them there and everything like that. And, again, all of this is going to come in an email for you. So don't worry about what website I just told you or anything like that. We will send this to you. It'll be right in front of you on your own screen, and you'll get that right there. And you can look at, again, all these samples, all the other webinars. You can listen to them at your convenience. You can share them with your teams. We've had a lot of people asking if they're able to share these with their teams. Yes, you are absolutely allowed to share this with any of your teams, anybody that can benefit from it. We're really trying to create a good community here of credit and finance professionals that are helping each other out and just have great discussion and are just all doing better at our chosen profession here as we go along. So with that being said, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank our speakers. Jason, thank you for sticking around in the evening there, my friend. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Rich, thank you so much for being here, buddy. It's always great to have you on, in the faraway land of Allentown, and joining us here. And for all of you, thank you so much for being here. We are here basically every week trying to do this and be here and create this community. You can always find out about all of our webinars, past and future, at creditsafe.com/webinars. Have a great one, guys. See you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye.